be in and out a bit. But we'll go ahead and get started since it's 9 o'clock and we have a long agenda. So let's get started with staff introductions. And it looks like today we have Dakota, Sarah, and Alita. Am I saying Alita right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And so, Scott, I'll turn that over to you and you can introduce folks.
Sure. We're very grateful for the team that is provided to us through our interagency agreement with Department of Human Resource Management. So DHRM. Whenever you hear DHRM, they're not they're not directly a section of the USBE, but there's this fund called the Inter-Service Fund that we use to pay for the awesome services that Dakota and her team provide us. So we want to make sure that we introduce them because despite the arrangement, they are part of Team USB as a whole. So we probably need to start with Dakota, if that's okay. So if she'll introduce herself. And I think you still want to have them introduce themselves and
Yes.
tell us one thing that,
One thing that we would not
Okay.
otherwise know.
No. Okay.
One thing, yes.
All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all again. For me, Dakota Cambruzzi, I have been here officially 8 months, which seems like 8 years, but I love it. I've had lots of interactions with you guys, which has been really special for me in kind of understanding the business. A fun fact that you might not know about me, I have my own side by side. It's a razor, and I do rock crawling and sand dunes, and sometimes like to get dirty, although not all the time. So that's that's a little bit about me. Half of my team is here, and so I'll let them kind of introduce themselves. We'll have Sarah go first, and then we'll have Alita go after her.
Sounds
Morning.
great.
Sorry. Good morning. I'm Sarah Humphreys, and I'm the HR agency partner. So I do a lot of like the employee relations type of assistance for USBE, and I've been supporting USBE for almost 3 years at the end of November. And a fun fact about me would be that I am a dual citizen. So I have citizenship in Australia and the US.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Alita, and I have been here for, I want to say 3 months, basically. So it's been a lot of fun learning a lot of new things. Something that you might not know. I love cooking. I love to cook just about anything. And I also bake sometimes. But I prefer cooking.
Mm, that is wonderful. You probably reap the rewards of that wonderful cooking, I'm sure. Well, thank you all. And Dakota, you kind of had jumped in with fire having to help hire a new superintendent. And, we appreciated you guiding us through that whole process. So thanks to you and your team.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it. It's been great so far to work with you guys. I love it.
Well, we appreciate you. And let's go ahead and then move into looks like we have no public comment today. So let's move into our 2.2, R277-404 school fees amendment. And we have, do we have Deputy Superintendent of Policy, Elise Nui here with us today? I also have Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones and School Finance Director Sam Uri. Are one of you want to give a introduction to this? If someone is speaking, I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me? This is Sam Uri, School Finance Director.
Yes, I can now.
Okay. My laptop picked a great time to not work, but if we had some changes to both 407, R277, 407, and 494 due to House Bill 344 from the 2025 session that related to removing co-curricular fees as a defined fee type, and it really moved us to either a fee course or a non-fee course, and it removed co-curricular as a defined fee type. We have a couple drafts here, and if we can open up draft number 2, this would be the draft that we met with several stakeholders, and we originally had in draft 1 wanted to remove co-curricular completely from this rule, but it became apparent that we might want to keep that in there. So if we can keep scrolling down to the changes and deletions here, and I apologize, I'm kind of mixing 404 and 494, the discussion together. House Bill 344 also removed some definitions or okay, so if we can just scroll up just a little bit so we can see, sorry, the other way down maybe. Perfect. So right here we're talking about non-waivable charges, and we are suggesting that we remove charges as non-waivable, as this was clarified in legislation, removing a charge for college credit related to the successful completion of concurrent enrollment class. And then if we can scroll down to those, line 58 and 15, and then advanced placement examination. And I believe we can scroll the rest through here. And again, I apologize that I had these up on the laptop, but so it's just clarifying that those can be now non-waivable charges if an LEA so desires. An LEA can still choose to waive those fees, but since they're related to college credit that the student receives, it can be an LEA decision to not waive those fees.
Right. Oh, can you stop right there on line 255? Thank you, Director Uri. When we read this rule before and we were discussing this, I thought you had mentioned that on line 255 CTE was inadvertent.
That's my understanding also, and I wonder if we need to update this draft. And I know Deputy Superintendent Newey was working around the clock to get multiple rules updated. Yeah. So if we could open actually draft 1 and go to line 255 and see.
And Madam Chair, Deputy Newey's on her way. She's just doing another rule in the committee that started before us. So she's okay. She'll be right here.
So yes, Chair Davis, my understanding would be that in 255, what staff would recommend is that we strike concurrent enrollment, IB and AP courses, but leave the CTE there.
So CTE is waivable.
Right. Because it's not college credit that the student would be receiving.
So in our draft that we're draft 2 is the one we're really looking at passing today, based on all the stakeholder input from charters and districts and such. And I assume, the bill sponsor's intent is, it looks to me that that's not changed in draft 2.
Right, and it would need to be.
So shall we wait? Shall we move on to the next agenda item until Director Nui gets here? Oh, I see her here. Director or Deputy Nui, we are looking at line 255. When we were looking at this the other day in preparation for this meeting, we questioned CTE becoming non-waivable. And as we were talking, it was said that potentially it was the college credit that was possibly waivable if that's what an LEA chooses, like a concurrent enrollment fee, the credit fee, the AP test fee, the IB fee, although IB seems K-12 as well. But CTE is a lot of K-12 classes. Why would CTE be in there, and is it inadvertent or is it intentional?
No, I apologize. I pulled up the version I finished last night and I sent the wrong version to you all. So actually 255 and 256 should not, there we go, should not be crossed out. So my understanding, and Sam can correct me, or other school fees, but I believe the consensus from the group of school fees experts and superintendents was to just unstrike this entire portion. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to make changes and do an amendment now, and we can get that right.
Well, the question is, we're saying that then LEAs can choose to charge fees for CTE and not waive those fees. And is that only if those are like the optional parts of CTE? Because there are a ton of CTE classes that are just K-12 classes, not necessarily giving college credit.
That is a great question. Sam, any thoughts? Sam?
Do we have Talia here also? Maybe Talia could help us with that.
And actually just scroll up a little bit to the heading here. Again, apologies. I'm kind of conflating 494 and 404 a little bit in my brain here, but
Spent a long time on these this week.
You have. Thank you for all you're doing. It's a lot of people understand that rule writing is a messy business. Messy because we have to, and rightly so, get a lot of input and make sure we're adding help to better understand and implement the code.
So my understanding, and again, I think this requires a little bit more nuance than this rule currently gives, because we had similar questions about things like IB as well. There's kind of some gray area from what I understand. And
I have that question too.
Is look at this rule, maybe pass the changes today, but continue looking at those kind of nuances and expanding the rule, or just kind of re-looking at it, given the new definitions. I think that was kind of a radical change, and we might have to do more amending as we look at it some more, but I see Talia's here, so.
Oh, good.
so my understanding would be that because the heading of this section R277407-5, which is on line 229, refers to fee waivable activities, classes, or programs provided sponsored or supported by a school. To be consistent with the changes that we're making earlier in the rule, we would want to strike concurrent enrollment, IB and AP, but leave CTE.
Is Talia, thank you for that, Sam. Talia, could you weigh in on that? I should say Director Urian, Director Longhurst.
Talia Longhurst, Director of Career and Technical Education. I apologize. I just got out of Law and Licensing Committee and popped in. I don't know the question. I don't know the topic.
The
If you could just
question
restate,
is,
I'll do my best.
we are trying to align with new code with school fees. And there is an option for LEAs to either charge fees or waive fees for AP exams and concurrent enrollment fees because they're university credit. They don't necessarily have to waive those fees. CTE is in that same line, but not every CTE course has, university fees attached. So are we saying, or does the new code say that LEAs can choose to waive any CTE fee?
I haven't read this rule, but I will say that there are AP and IB CTE courses. It seems to me that line might be about those early college experiences. And in that case, it would be any AP, IB, or concurrent enrollment course, whether or not it's CTE or general education.
Do you think that's the intent of the code? Because if that's the case, it needs to be worded differently in line 5, 255.5. Board members, speak up. I
I'll
feel like
speak
I'm
up.
dominating here.
Yeah, Cindy, I'll chime in if you don't mind. And I think
Please do.
what you're saying, I think is makes a lot of sense to me. If a CTE course is concurrent enrollment, then it's concurrent enrollment, but not all CTE courses are concurrent enrollment. So I think if the intent is, if it's a course that's receiving college credit or has the potential to receive college credit, then it's waivable. Then by putting concurrent enrollment in there, a CTE course that is concurrent enrollment falls into that category. I don't know that you'd need to list CTE specifically as well, because as you mentioned, not all CTE courses are concurrent enrollment, right?
Mm-hmm. Same with IB, right? Or was IB, is there some specific fees to IB that we're unfamiliar with that are university based that we don't need to, or I think you're right. You could take out both CTE and IB. I just don't want to have unintended consequences if there's something we missed with CTE or IB.
Well, like
But
AP, there's a specific AP test. You pass that test, you get the credit, right?
Right.
Concurrent enrollment, you dual enroll. I don't know enough about IB to comment on that one. So, but I don't know if there's a test or if there's something that they have to do that's different from just concurrent enrollment credit. So.
Yeah. So if we are all understanding this correctly, then I think what we need to do is threefold. One, we need to move this draft. Then two, someone needs to amend this line. Then we need to vote, and with the vote, we probably should give a direction to staff to double check our understanding with the code.
Okay, and what draft is this? This is
2.
Draft 2. I'm happy to move it in a motion.
Chair Davis, I might have
Yes.
a suggestion here on language.
Okay.
We could remove concurrent enrollment, IB, and AP. Those are called out in HB 344 as specifically being non-waivable. We could say something like CTE courses for K through 12 credit, or maybe we don't need to say K through 12, but for secondary school credit. There's probably a lot better way to say that, but if that provides any clarity to LEAs, I think that might be a worthy addition. Or we just could also remove CTE with the understanding that it is still waivable unless it's a CTE course that's also an AP or concurrent enrollment course.
I think that is probably what we could do. And it seems similar to what Vice Chair Kelly was suggesting also, that last one, just removing CTE. Director Longhurst?
So there are CT courses that cannot have fees charged. For example, the new statute made it so that any course, CTE or not CTE, that can give core graduation credit. So for example, we have a list that there are some CTE courses that can also grant science credit or math credit or English language arts credit or or regular fine arts credit. There is a list of those courses. If a CTE course appears on that list, they cannot charge a fee for that CTE course.
So would you just suggest removing CTE from 255 because it's understood?
I believe so.
Wherever it is.
I believe so. Yeah, but I would say we'd need to check into statute. I've not read the statute on this recently, so.
Okay, then when we amend, sorry, go ahead, Director Yuri.
No, as Director Longhurst has indicated, I do think there are other places in code that, you know, if a class is offered for core credit, it's already understood as a non-fee class, a non-fee course. So I think removing CTE from this, striking the entire line 255 would be the best course here.
Wait, why would we strike the entire line 255 if we need to keep in to align with code, concurrent enrollment, IB, and AP?
We need to take those out to align with code, is my understanding, because this section of the rule refers to waivable. Let's see, sorry. Can we go up to the subheading of this rule section? Sorry, in line 230. So it's stating which fees are waivable. So we want to remove concurrent enrollment, IB, and AP as part of the change that we're making to this rule from HB 344, which is to say that AP, concurrent enrollment, and IB are non-waivable.
Then do we leave CTE there?
Well, and that's
it's just encompassed in everything. It's like everything else that's waivable.
Right. So I think we don't necessarily need to explicitly state that it's waivable, and we could just remove the entire line 255.
Okay. I'm so surprised this didn't come up in that stakeholder meeting yesterday. But let's move forward, and then can we double check on this? And then if we need to make a change when it comes to full board in a month, we'll make a change.
Absolutely.
So then, Vice Chair Kelly, if you're willing to go ahead and move this draft.
Yeah. So I'll make the motion that the committee approves R277-407 school fees draft 2 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor that the committee approves R277-407 school fees draft 2 as amended on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. And I'll entertain additional amendments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't find my microphone. You may want to consider reviewing lines. Let's see, on draft 2, lines 56 through 58, because they seem to be opposite to the discussion of college credit as non-waivable. So could we take a look? This is coming from input from Mr. Hauber. So can we look at 56 and 58? Sorry, I couldn't find my microphone earlier.
Yes. And to my understanding, it's an option, right? The LEA may or may not waive those.
Yes, but if we go to, so on lines 56 through 58, I don't know if that's abundantly clear though.
Are
the
you
way
looking
that's
at
worded.
line 256 and 258? No, we need
Oh.
56 and 58.
56 and 58. Yeah.
In draft 2 that I'm looking at, that's crossed out and in red, right? So right now it's to be deleted. And are you suggesting it should stay there?
So, and Deputy Newey might have some input here. I believe that because it's now in code with HB 344, that's the reason for removing it from rule.
Okay.
There was also confusion about, if I may, apologies, Chair, for in line 56, where it says that the successful completion of, that combined with the fact that it's also in code, we weren't sure that it was portraying the message that was originally intended.
We'll pay for it if you don't, because it's successfully completed, but we won't pay for it if you do.
Is that what it says in code right now?
No, I'm just the successful completion of it. Why is that language necessary? I think, isn't that what you were saying?
Yeah.
Correct. One of the questions that came up, and this was thanks to Mr. Haber, was the fact that fees that are being charged by a college when a student is enrolling in a course and they're having fees charged by a college, that's another gray area, is if it's outside of the school fees, like Sam pointed out further down, if it's a school provided program, then it doesn't fall under this, as I understand it, it doesn't fall under the school fees rule.
So I'll give an example maybe that might help clarify this. I teach financial literacy. I know that's no secret. My class is concurrent enrollment. My class is required for graduation, right? So according to the legislation, to code, you can't charge to take my class. There cannot be a fee involved in taking financial literacy because it's a graduation requirement, right? But there are students in my class who are receiving concurrent enrollment credit, but there are also students in my class that are not receiving concurrent enrollment credit. And so whether they choose to do concurrent enrollment or not is optional. It's not required. And so I think by code, the school doesn't have to pay for their concurrent enrollment fees is I think what this is trying to clarify. Is that correct? I think you're muted.
I think so. The more that we're talking about this, the more I am not confident in sending it on to board with the language as is. I'd love to have an opportunity to dig into this. I'm trying to think procedurally what the best option would be for this committee at this time. Because we could bring it back to committee. I do worry that schools are waiting on some guidance at the beginning of the year, but I'd rather get it right.
Yeah.
Can we bring it back in 2 hours or an hour while we just double check that? I mean, I think the question is, I'm not sure, is Director Haber online right now?
He is.
Can we just find out, is his concern that we're, Todd, is your concern that we're crossing it out or that it's going to be left in, or what's the concern?
I think it's I don't even know what camera I've got going here. I think the question is, what is the intent, the original intent? My understanding is that the lines 255 through 256 were causing problems because there were college fees that were subject to being waived. And technically, college costs are not subject to the fee law. They're
Correct.
outside the law. So
I think we're all on board. Yes.
yeah. So if you're in that context, you could strike 255, 256, and you can strike 56 through 58 because you're going to simply state that a fee related to a college course is not subject to the fee law. But you have to have that greater knowledge to know that higher ed fees can be charged. This rule could help bridge the gap for those who don't understand that. It could
So
be
we
clear.
maybe need to say that explicitly somewhere here, but maybe I see why we would remove 255. Why would we remove 256?
Because the higher ed fees aren't subject to the fee law in the first place. So
But
why
the whole section isn't about higher ed.
the 14A,
Oh,
2A, and B?
I see, because it
Those-
says and.
Mhm.
I see.
So again, it's having a higher level of knowledge that certain costs that happen at a school aren't subject to the fee law in the first place. If you're comfortable with that knowledge set, you can strike all this out, and it works. If you're a patron coming in and you're trying to figure out, well, why are you charging me this class but not this other one?
Yeah.
We're into a deeper conversation of, well, higher ed is not subject to the school fee law. Which we can have. We can have that conversation. It will invite those conversations.
Yeah, I wonder if we need to just bring this back in an hour or two, because is the and in 255 because it's coming to the end of the list, or is the and because it's connected to the higher ed principle in 255? And I'm not certain which of those it is, because it just says required as a part of an activity, course, or program.
The and connects the 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers, right? So 1 being if you go all the way up to 232.
Okay. Then we can't
Right.
strike that one. If it's not specific to the higher ed fees.
Yeah, so it would say, essentially, if you took out the ABC, it would be an activity or program where full participation in the activity or program includes, and the cost of access to software, digital content, or other instructional materials as part of an activity, course, or program. So I think we could leave the and connecting those two.
So Director Hubbard, are you okay if we, looking at what your understanding is too? I know you've done a lot of study on this. We just take out line 255 with that, because the things in 256 and 257 are separate from the higher ed.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I appreciate the promotion. I'll try to become a director at USBE.
I can't keep everybody's titles straight. I'm trying to be respectful.
Yeah, no, I think that was the original feedback, was to just strike that line 255.
Okay.
The confusion came around CTE, whether striking CTE caused more confusion or less confusion with regards to waivability.
I think we move forward with draft 2. We should keep the strikeout in line 56 and 57, because those are not, they can be waived, and an LEA can choose to waive them, but the LEA does not have to waive them. Yeah. And then we remove line 2, which is already in draft 2, so we don't need to amend anything there. And we just make an amendment to remove line 255. So I will entertain an amendment to remove line 255 if someone would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we strike line 255 on draft 2.
There's a motion on the floor to strike line 255. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes with members Bogus and Hymas absent. And let's go to the main motion then. There's a motion on the floor that the committee approves R277-407 school fees draft 2 as amended on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Bogus and Hymas absent. Let's go to the next action item 2.3, please.
Would you like me to take this one, Chair?
Yeah, I'm trying to get back there to see who was on this one. This was Director, oh yes, Deputy Newey or Director Uri. Please, Deputy Newey.
I will try not to make a mess, but thank you, Chair. So this was a similar one. We were trying to clean up school fees, the rules associated with the new legislation. One of the questions that we had, so the new legislation in terms of fees, got rid of the term co-curricular activities for the purposes of fees. So our original thinking in draft 1 was let's take co-curricular out of our rules, as it's not part of the fees framework anymore. And there were some LEAs that we had heard from that were also taking the language of co-curriculars out of their policies as well. But when we presented to these LEAs, there were some LEAs that are still using co-curricular as an option, and especially as an option for students who are homeschooled or at a private school or are at a charter school and are enrolling specifically for these co-curriculars. So we didn't want to take away that option for those students. So what we did in draft 2, we would recommend that the committee adopt and approve draft 2 is we put in the co-curricular activity definition that is used in our dual enrollment rule. So on lines 35, you'll see that definition. And it applies strictly to a school district or school activity, course, or experience outside of school hours that also includes a required regular school day component. And so with that definition, where it has nothing to do necessarily with fees, but just with enrollment of students, we put back all of the language that was taken out in draft 1. So you'll see that in draft 1, there's a lot of language stricken. In draft 2, all of that is put back in and is now referring to that specific definition of co-curricular activity. I hope that.
Thank you. Yeah, that language would have been helpful yesterday when we were talking about SOEPs. Hindsight is 2020 always, right?
I was just thinking about you and your soccer analogy.
Yeah. Yep, that would have fit perfectly there. However, onward and upward. I'll entertain a motion unless members have questions.
I have no questions, but I'll move it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I move that the committee continue and approve R277-494 charter online home and private school student participation in extracurricular and co-curricular activities draft 2 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. There's a motion that the committee continue and approve R277-494 charter online home and private school student participation in extracurricular or co-curricular activities draft 2 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Hymas and Bogus absent. And I will say about that language would have been helpful yesterday. That's not a comment to any staff member. That's to my own brain. Like I was trying to describe that. I wish in my head I would have thought of it as succinctly. So let's go ahead and move on to the next. Thank you, Deputy Nui. I don't know if you're here for any more of our rules, but we appreciate you helping with those.
Thank you so much, Chair.
Okay, let's move on to item 2.4, which is R277-319, Special Educator Stipends Amendment and Continuation. This is to align with code, I believe.
That is correct. Would you like me to continue, Chair?
Yes, please.
R277-319, this is special educator stipends. We added in, the first changes we did is we added in the oversight category. This is categorized as category 4 under R277-111 due to the fact that we have dedicated USBE staff monitoring this rule, and they monitor more than once a year on this particular rule. There wasn't too many changes. It was mostly to come in alignment with code. You'll see on lines 41 and then down on 69 and 75 that we added in speech language pathologist. This was the part that aligned with code. And then in lines 71 and 72, we made it clear that LEAs were required to maintain their extended year special educator dashboard and ensure that the surveys that they received were valid. A lot of times staff has to either send back surveys or request the LEAs correct a part on the survey if it was wrong, and then also just needed to make sure that LEAs were updating their dashboards yearly, and so we put this part into code as well. And those are the changes for 319.
Okay, thank you. If there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the committee continue and approve R277-319 special education stipends. Is it draft 1 that we're doing here?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. Members, there's a motion on the floor that the committee continue and approve R277-319 special educator stipends draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Hymas and Bogus absent. Item 2.5, State Fiscal Year 2025 Carry Forward Balance, Status and Approval for Use. Let's see, we have Assistant Superintendent Deborah Jacobson.
I think she might have stepped out, ma'am, so I can take it at your direction.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Staff are recommend. So we did complete year-end close. We submitted the year-end close packet to State Finance, but we don't have the validation quite yet from State Finance on on the overall closing package that results in the carry forward balances broken down by section. It's a timing issue. Some years it goes faster and we're able to do this agenda item in Finance Committee. The importance of this is timing, as everything usually is around here, is what we would prefer or strongly recommend to the Finance Committee or to you and the vice chair of the committee is to coordinate with leadership to allow this particular agenda item to go on the main board agenda in October. The reason is once we get the validation that we're closed and all the balances check out by State Finance, then we go to the sections and say, okay, here's your validated carry forward, and they come up with plans on how to use that carry forward money so the board can review those and approve the use of those funds in accordance with the Budgetary Procedures Act. So, it's not any staff's fault that we're not able to do this month, but if, though, you do want it to come back to Finance Committee, the key caveat or condition there is that it would be another month, right? So if it comes back to Finance Committee in October and not the main board, in October, it wouldn't be until November that the main board would see all of the plans and recommendations on how to use the carry forward. So I don't know if you have to action that or, to move an agenda item to the main board, but I think it would help to know, based on my recommendations or our recommendations, whether or not you'd support asking board leadership to allow this one to be put on the full board agenda in October. I hope all that makes sense. It's just a timing issue, really.
It makes sense. And basically what this action is going to do is that it's going to give them time to make their plans, which is the
Yes.
pro. The con is that we're not going to be able to vet those prior to full board. But I think to make it the most clear, instead of not taking action, I think we should take an action to postpone this item to the full board.
Oh, okay.
And then it will signal to board members, this isn't a no action. This is I need to pay attention because now it's my responsibility. Does that sound okay?
Sounds great. I think Deborah's back. Can we just check in with her and see if I missed anything at your direction, ma'am? Can you check in?
Yes, please. Assistant Superintendent Jacobson.
Nope, you didn't miss anything.
Okay, cool.
Is that plan of action appropriate?
Yes. And we're, as we're working on carry forward right now, there's a chance that we'll have it fairly early. And we can send documents to the full board early before board backups if
Okay.
or
Sure.
to start reviewing ahead of the board meeting.
Yeah, if the plans are ready prior, yeah, that would be just fine. Or do we approve this before they start making their plans?
No, they're currently working on their plan.
On the plans. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Member Booth, would you be willing to postpone this item to full board October?
You bet. I move that the committee postpone this agenda item, state fiscal year 2025 carry forward balance status and approval for use, to be forwarded to the full board for consideration and recommendation at the October board meeting.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor to postpone. The committee recommends to postpone the state fiscal year 2025 carry forward balance status and approval for use be forwarded to the full board for consideration and recommendation at the October board meeting. Members, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Bogus and Hymas absent. I forgot to have us vote there for a second. Sorry about that. I was on to the next item in my brain. Item 2.6, action state fiscal year 2025 discretionary carry forward balance status and approval for use. We have, again, Assistant Superintendent Jacobson.
Yeah, go ahead, Deborah.
Do you want me to take this one, Scott?
Yeah, go ahead. If you feel all right, do you want me to take it or?
Yeah, I can get it.
Okay.
I mean, can you pull up the discretionary report? Okay. So this is the new updated discretionary report for 2026. Up in the upper right-hand corner are your new balances as of closeout. And then you can see that we've already have some projects that are kind of ongoing that are kind of spilling into this next year. So they remain in the body of this report, showing that there are some of these funds that are already currently obligated. In this particular action, we are asking whether or not you want to continue your contingency of 200,000 or your legal contingency of 250,000. We typically do that every year. You could increase it, decrease it, whichever you feel. We also we have two requests for the superintendency discretionary of 100,000. And then we've got building and security request of 250,000.
And those are ongoing, right?
No, these are all one-time, they're carry forward funds, so they're all one-time funds.
It seems like the superintendent fund has been double that in past years, or has it always been 100,000?
It's been anywhere from 100 to 150. In the past, the superintendent liked to keep it at about 100 to 150. So the request would only be an up to amount. So there were some years where there would be carry forward in her fund, and she would just request up to that amount.
And one more question, and board members, if you have questions, but since there's only 3 of us, just jump in today. I'm not looking for hands as much as I have been on the other days with just 3. Does this include the help for the URSA conference? Has that I know that has come from this in the past, the superintendent's discretionary, I thought, or is there somewhere a different line item for that? The URSA conference.
If you approve for the superintendent to have this 100,000, then it's moved to the superintendent and it's at her discretion how it's used.
And in the past, has it been used for the URSA conference?
Part of it, yes.
Part of it, yes. Okay. What's that?
Not all of it, but part of it, yes.
Okay. 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 Members, if there are no questions, is in 250 for building security has been pretty typical in the past?
Yes,
it seems
this
like
is actually, yeah, so the 250, so it's 100,000, or I mean, sorry, 150,000 for the security guards for the year, and then 100,000 for building concerns and improvements.
I'm seeing 2 recommended actions here. Is there, are we doing both? Tell me why there are 2 and which one, what the difference is, or which one should we move?
It would actually be both. We're requesting both. One is to continue your contingencies, the board's contingencies. Funds, and then the other one is to address the 2 separate requests by both the superintendent and then of course for the building and security.
what has the board used the contingency for in the past? Oh, it's to help, has been used to help USDB and some other things. Is that right?
Well, yes. So typically in the past, we don't have this large amount of carry forward in the past. And as you can notice, it's shrinking. After COVID, we had a large, they swept all of the funding and they gave it back to us. And so you had a large bucket of money for quite some time. And so now we're dwindling back down to more manageable amounts. And in the past, the 200,000 is about all you had to solve problems or any concerns that had come up through the year. So in the past, we haven't been spending the 200,000, but we're going to be in that space soon as carry forward starts to dwindle.
Okay. And that's just that top line item there, that contingency line item, but we still do have federal mineral lease monies and such, as noted in the box above.
Yes.
That will be part of the discussion tomorrow in full board meeting. And in our last committee meeting, I think we talked about using 1.1 million of that for
We got a board meeting tomorrow too.
Oh, sorry, this afternoon. This afternoon. Later today.
I had to give you a hard time on that.
I'm so glad you did, because honestly, Cole, that was like the longest finance committee report out I've ever seen in my entire life. So my brain is probably still back there. Deputy Jones.
Well, you said it. I just wanted to bring up, just maybe for consideration too, that the committee could address the 1.1 million for the SLDS grant should the government not do it. Yesterday's motion was for us to work closely with USHE and I'm not sure that we'd be able to get to a particular motion based on the agenda items later today on that. So you could make that, or, make a recommendation as part of this anyway. It's part of the same process as far as the use of the discretionary funds go. I'm just a little worried because of time.
Yeah.
Who would do it? I mean, you could, make it contingent upon if the federal government doesn't do it, then,
Right.
1.1 million. Well, the whole of the federal mineral lease balance plus a little bit from the state funds to get to 1.1 million.
Right. So I've heard from another board member who had a concern about using the whole 1.1 million because it drops us down quite low. So and I thought that Director Breff said it would be okay if we used
500,000
half this year to get started and then half the next year because it's going to take 2 years to build it out, right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Yep.
So we may need to now if we move that today in committee, is there any kind of force function that it pushes that to then we vote again on it in October, or can we still make the same motion this afternoon on this agenda item when we talk about the budget and discretionary funds this afternoon?
Well, see, that's my concern is that the report this afternoon is not an action item. And my understanding on the rules of board,
oh shoot,
that's the thing is that's what I'm a little worried about. So if you make it here, because it would be okay. I think now that we've talked about this and the board approved the motion for us to work with USBE on it, I think that this is actually better couched here. So that, because by the time we get to the board meeting in October, we may actually know if the federal government is going to fund the SLDS or not, so we can take it off. And, that way it's all bundled here together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I thought that we had in full board an opportunity to make motions on our discretionary monies. Is it only randomly agendized as action items?
Yeah, we used to be able to do that, but my understanding is because of concerns of things not going through committee, they didn't. We've kept that as an information, or we've changed that to an information item now. Now the other place that you could do it is for the or in the FY26 general session, where because that's I think that would be fitting if you wanted to do that in front of the full board. You could make that as part of a, continuation of the motion that was approved yesterday, where work with USBE, make it contingent on thing to see if you want to make a request of the legislature for the 1.1 million, or, because they're going to be very interested in, depending on what happens with Congress and what budget gets passed, hopefully it gets passed by September 30th. We'll know by your October meeting what grants and levels and funding by then would do that. So, because if not, then if there are reduction in federal grants, then the process should take place for us to decide, or the board to direct staff on whether to request replacement funding in those amounts, or we just don't know yet. We don't know yet. So that's why I'm recommending that you consider addressing the potential 1.1 million shortfall excuse me, in the SLDS grant here. So that, I mean,
in this it actually may go to the new meeting we're having another meeting in 2 weeks, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah.
So okay. So there is a lot to think about. That is not included in this, either of these recommended actions under 2.6. So we would just need to make that an additional motion. And then I have another discretionary fund request. And I'm a little concerned that the discretionary items now are not going to full board to make motions, because then every request has to come through finance, which I'm fine with, but then board members outside of finance committee have to get someone from finance committee to move it through.
Which we can do. I mean,
which we can, but what if no one on finance agrees with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something we need to talk about offline. That's a process issue. Okay, so we have a lot to do. Let's start with let's start with the recommended actions so we can at least continue with the funds moving forward that we know that we're going to need. These are big, these two recommended actions, and then let's deal with the SLDS after that. So I'm seeking a motion.
Chair, I move that the committee recommends that the board approves continuing a contingency fund of $200,000 and a legal contingency fund of $250,000.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor that the committee recommends that the board approves continuing a contingency fund of $200,000 and a legal contingency fund of $250,000. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Bogus and Hymas absent. I'm seeking another motion.
I would move that the committee recommends that the board approve using $350,000 of state discretionary funds to support the Office of State Superintendent of Public Instruction in the amount of $100,000, and to continue on-site security guard services at the USBE office for $150,000, and to establish a building operations budget for fiscal year 2026, covering various replacements and repairs, broken security cameras, painting and patching, conference room furniture updates, etc., in the amount of $100,000.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor as stated. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Bogus and Hymas absent. I will make a motion that we use discretionary funds. I have to think how to do this in my head now. We don't have our cheat sheets in front of us.
All right.
Let me think about how to formulate this. I move that the committee recommends that the board use discretionary funds to continue the SLDS grant in the amount of $1.1 million to be divided over 2 years. Is Deputy Jones fix my motion?
Well, it's not that, ma'am. It's just, so if the motion goes through, then basically, and then if the board approves your motion or the recommendation you make as it's worded here, that would, and Deborah can correct me if I'm wrong, that would basically commit or encumber the entire amount. I think what your intent is only to provide $500,000 for this year, and then contingent upon if the federal government funds it, or, you know, we could come back year 2 and provide another $500,000 after we close fiscal year 26. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes.
Because if your intent is to have some funds remaining,
Yeah, makes perfect
you don't
sense.
want to commit
It's just
or
risky.
encumber the funds for 2 years, right? You don't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Can we check in with
Makes
Deborah, see if she?
perfect sense. I agree.
Okay,
Actually, I'm
okay,
going to change my
okay,
motion.
okay.
So I'm going to move that the committee recommends that the board approves using $550,000 of state discretionary funds to continue the statewide longitudinal data system, subject to or contingent upon federal government. Sounds like a double negative, like non-funding. Can I just say contingent upon federal government funding, and is it self-explanatory?
I would, if I may, ma'am, I'd recommend
Yes.
contingent upon continuation of federal government funding for the SLDS grant.
It would be contingent upon discontinuation, because we're not going to put the money in if they continue to fund. We're only going to put the money in if they discontinue the funding.
Oh, yeah, okay, you could, well, yeah, I mean, because if you say contingent upon them continuing to fund it, that implies that if they do continue to fund it, you wouldn't use this money. Then we would return it. But either way, yeah. Because right now we know that the federal government is planning on not funding it.
So that we will put this money contingent upon that staying status quo.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. But that's just a proposal though, because Congress hasn't ratified the budget yet. So it's a proposal to cut the program. So yeah, either way.
What if we just change it to, let's just leave it like this. There's a motion on the floor that the committee recommends that the board approves using $550,000 of state discretionary funds to continue the statewide longitudinal data system, SLDS, contingent upon discontinuation of federal government funding. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Bogus and Hymas absent. And I have one more to get my total amounts. Randy, do you remember what that total was that I showed you and Jenny yesterday? I think it was 37,000. Okay. Okay. I move that the committee recommend to the full board that we use, Deputy Jones, do you have a?
So I apologize. I know I'm a troublemaker, been a troublemaker
No,
for years.
No, help us
But
stay
based on
online.
Well, but with that recommendation and based on what balances we have, we're assuming that if the board ratifies or approves this recommendation, that it will be state federal mineral lease discretionary funds that we use. Because remember, you have the different.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so
you're right.
I mean, I can do that. I just want to make it public record that staff would take that motion to mean, because there's state funds and then there's federal mineral lease funds.
Agreed. We need to make it clear.
So
Without objection
I couldn't
from
get
the
my
committee,
hand up.
can we make that? Is there any objection from the committee if we make sure that's clear in the motion?
No.
No.
Okay, sounds like we can move forward. And then I'm going to make another motion that the committee recommends to the full board to use $32,500. And you'll have to help me, Scott, if it's going to be discretionary.
State funds. The state funds category of your
state discretionary funds for an essay contest, a statewide essay contest to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Do you think that I should include in the motion? Well, let's go ahead and put these details in. I think it would just read including $25,000 for $250 $100 awards and 3 $2,500 $2,500 scholarships.
Is it scholarship or cash awards?
Definitely the 3 are scholarships. I'm not sure how to do the 250. If we can make that somehow a scholarship, but I'm not sure if that's logistically. When I was talking with our chief executive auditor, Davis, she said to make all those $100 scholarships, we'd have to figure out if those have to be vendors or not. So I think we leave it as awards for right now, and then we can flesh it out a bit more in the full board
I like the
to see
motion.
how logistically that would go. Thank you. I am thinking, and maybe we need to include this somewhere, that this would specifically be for we'd have a 5th grade category, an 8th grade category, and a high school category. Or just, it doesn't even need to be a category, but fifth grade, 8th grade, and high school. 5th and 8th is where we study United States history. And then all of our high school students, have this incorporated in one way or another throughout their courses, depending on when each LEA does U.S. history and such. Okay. Any questions or concerns?
Since we did, because high school, some high schools can be 9 through 12, some can be 10 through 12. Do you want to just put a 10 through 12, or do you want to put a 9 through 12 on high school?
Let's do 10 through 12. Are any 9th graders taking U.S. history right now? I don't know. Let's just say high school and
Okay. I guess if
fall.
it's a 9 through 12 high school, then the 9th graders can participate. If it's not, then
yeah, I think so. Since they start earning graduation credits in 9th grade. Or we can just say available to grades 5 and 8 through 12. Would that just be more clear?
well, I think you wanted to do a separate. Are you wanting
Yeah,
to
let's do
like
3.
fifth graders compete against 5th graders, 8th against 8th graders,
Yeah,
and then
let's do that.
and
That
then
makes
9th
more
through
sense.
12th. Yeah.
That makes more sense. Was the initial thinking. Okay, there's a motion on the floor that the committee recommends that the board approves using $32,500 of state discretionary funds for a statewide essay contest in grades 5, 8, and high school to celebrate the 250-year anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, including $25,000 for 250 100 awards and 3 2,500 scholarships, and that this be considered in the additional September meeting. I think we need to include that so we don't wait until October, because we have to do this in year 2025 because the anniversary is this year, 2025.
I don't know.
There is a motion on the floor as stated. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes unanimously with members Hymas and Bogus absent. Okay, 2.7, creation of a USBE foundation for the statewide attendance campaign.
Is
Deputy
Yeah.
Newey.
yeah,
Is Deputy Newey still here?
I'm here.
Okay, Deputy Newey, go ahead.
Okay.
This is a staff request. We're listing this as a staff request. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
This is a staff request. So our attendance team has been working really hard over the last year or so to develop a statewide attendance campaign. Right now that involves they have ambassadors that support attendance that they have on their website. They're getting the word out to students and in trying to encourage greater attendance in all of our Utah schools. One of the things that they have encountered as they have gone about the state and tried to encourage great attendance is that they have business and community partners that have said, we would love to donate either funds or in-kind donations on behalf of the attendance campaign. Unfortunately, we can't take those donations the way that things are set up at the moment. And so one of the ideas that has been brought forward is to create a foundation that would allow the attendance campaign to take those donations and then use them toward the campaign. That would be a board decision, a policy decision, and we can do either. We cannot have the foundation and continue on as we have been doing. We can also do the foundation and move forward with that, but we wanted to bring this idea to you all to begin that discussion.
Yeah, thank you. We were going to change this to a discussion item, but it looks like it is still on the agenda as an action item. So
that is my bad. If we wanted to lower the stakes on this item, I would just recommend that we make a motion that it be continued into the October committee agenda. And then that way you guys can start the discussion now, and then we can make decisions in October. That also would not preclude if we found through the course of this discussion that we really did want to bring it before the board, we could always do that as well. But we're okay with either of those. And I apologize for the...
Yeah, it would still be on the full board anyway. It's just, I know this has been considered or done in the past, and there were reasons why it was taken away or not implemented at USBE. So I think we need to tread pretty carefully in this space.
Absolutely.
But let's flesh it out and figure out. Yeah, that's what I think we need to figure out. And so remember, Kelly, did you want to speak to this prior, or should we ask our questions?
I love the idea. As you know, I work in Alpine School District. Alpine School District has a foundation. If a parent wants to donate to my classroom, they can donate it to the Alpine Foundation, and they can earmark that to my classroom. They could earmark it to to any sports team, any activity, any club for that matter. And so I think when the community is wanting to help, we allow them that opportunity to help and provide that opportunity to let them give back to education. And so I think our attendance team they're doing a great job. I was looking for Jennifer's name. I'm sorry, I saw it on here somewhere earlier, and I know Megan Menlove is there. And there's Garrett, and I'm trying to get all the names, but and then Jennifer, and then Benji Carrier as well, that I know have been doing quite a bit of work to get the word out on really just a shoestring budget, which doesn't really exist. So
yeah, sure.
And so the campaign, I think, is worthy. It's not. A lot of people are getting all up in arms about different attendance measures, like the strong arm of the government's going to come down and tell parents that if their kids aren't going to school, that we're going to throw them in jail and things like that. And it couldn't be further from the truth as to what they're doing here. What they're doing is trying to emphasize and trying to help parents understand the importance of getting your kid to school and the impact that can have on your student if they're regular attending classes and regular attending school. Just the data and the statistics bear out that if your child is attending school on a regular basis, they're going to be better readers, they're going to be better mathematicians, they're going to be better students. So I support the idea, and I think the foundation, I don't think this needs to be just an attendance thing, but they're getting the ball rolling. And if down the road people want to donate money to the USBE for a different cause, I think that we allow them that opportunity and earmark that money to whatever it is that donor wants that money to go towards. So.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I do think it's absolutely a worthy cause. My questions are this. if a donor donates and earmarks the donation for something that would be contrary to, say, USBE standards or something of that nature, are we beholden to spend the money in the way that they earmark legally? And also, most foundations have an executive director. And so, do we need to hire an executive director? What are the costs of running the foundation? And is the juice worth the squeeze? How many times has this come up? Will it come up more times? That is hard to predict. Are there any partners on the attendance team that are nonprofits right now that the donations could go through that nonprofit and be used for this statewide campaign? And then the team would still direct how those donations are used for the statewide campaign. I don't know the answers to any of those questions. Cole, you may have already, with the team, started looking at some of these. I'm just
No,
wondering
they're
if
good. They're good questions, and I no, I don't know the answers to those. If Deputy Newey has some answers to some of those questions, but they're good questions to ask, and maybe why we need to kind of whether we take action on this or not, or whether we just have the discussion. I think it's we've got to get answers to those questions, and I think we need to move down the road of figuring out if this is something we can do to help out. And I'm not just saying just the attendance team. I'm saying down the road, if there are donors that want to donate to USBE for whatever cause, I mean, but I like you say, Chair Davis, if it's a cause that we don't agree with or a cause that we don't support as a board, what is our obligation to accept that money, to spend that money to, so those are good questions.
Does anyone have answers for us? Either Deputy Newey, Deputy Jones, Deputy Jones, your hands up.
So having established and ran foundations in the past, or similarly 501c3s, the first question is, Vice Chair Kelly is right. So earmark, though, in legal terms for a foundation is a restricted donation or an unrestricted donation. So if a donor says, hey, look, I'm going to give you $100,000 and you can use it for whatever you want, that falls into the legal category of an unrestricted donation. So then the foundation board, so it's not just about so to answer the other question too, foundations are typically best run by boards who establish bylaws, so it's not just, when you set up a foundation, yes, you got to do the IRS establishment of the 501c3, but if you really want a bona fide, running foundation, you really need to have a board as well, right? You need
Separate from our board.
Separate from your board, right? The foundation has their run. Former board member is excellent. I can't remember his name, but he runs he helped run the foundation in Jordan School District. And we had this conversation. Yes. Okay. So, anyway, there's a lot more than just that. So obviously, staff will always do what the board directs. A couple of just concerns, or maybe just considerations, maybe not concerns or considerations, is, well, why couldn't the team here, as part of their relationship building with the community, if there's particular districts or charter schools that are experiencing or would like to have funds, why not have the community organizations donate directly to their foundations? They're already established. So if there is a particular area of the state or a district that could use additional funds to support the campaign at the local level, that's something that we would ask as staff up here to consider, because foundations are not typically set up just for one campaign, right? They're not just set up for, whatever it is, attendance or you know, like, but trying to mitigate against certain issues in schools or things like that. There's
lunch programs or
multiple. I'm sure sir, because you're right. Alpine has a foundation, but they get multiple donations for different reasons. To your point, you may have a donor that really wants to donate money to enhance financial literacy experiences for the kids, right? But then you might have a chemistry teacher where another donor's like, well, I want to buy lab equipment and, do this. So it's more vast than just one particular campaign. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not possible or anything like that, but I just ask to consider, because the history here is the USB did have a foundation, but the decision was to do away with the foundation because of what I just explained, which was, or just asked you to consider, is many of the LEAs were like, hey, look, we have our own foundations. We have our own donors. We want it at the local level. We don't want donors coming in and donating to the USBE and then subsequently having to do something, with that or because of that money to do it. Please allow us to take the donations and use them accordingly. So that's why we're just asking to consider that,
So Scott, what you're saying is that the local, the LEAs were considering the foundation at the state level to be in competition, perhaps, with their foundations.
Not only in competition, but their words, unduly influencing. If we're raising money to do something in a local district, right, that there was that kind of, I guess, for lack of a better, icky feeling of, well, here we have the USBE Foundation, getting donations and then turning around and telling us to use them for.
You have to do it the way the donor wants it.
Yeah, the way the donor wants it, or the team. I agree with Vice Chair Kelly. The team is awesome. They're great. I also I completely understand that there are community organizations that want to help, but I would just ask you to consider, well, where is that best done, right? Could the team engage with those community organizations to say, hey, Granite is open up to, pick on Todd here. Granite's open up. They have a foundation. They're open to, receiving donated funds to help with particular recommended programs to enhance attendance. Those types of things. Could that be the dynamic? Then you don't have to go through this whole thing that eventually, we'd hope that it does make a difference and kids start attending. So then what? Would you have the foundation work on other campaigns, or, it's just.
Or does it go away, or does it just open up if anyone ever wants to donate, it's there?
Yeah, because eventually what happened was we stopped running a foundation. The USB did. Donations stopped coming in. Right. And then we it was like 2014, somewhere around there, before I came on, they got rid of it.
So if you have a board, but who's doing all the work? Like every foundation that I know has an executive director.
Yes.
If they have a separate board, who is the executive director and how does that person get paid? Do you have to get donations enough to pay for an executive director?
So that is established in the bylaws. Foundations can do it either way. Most foundations, though, do not. The board itself, think USDB, for example. We have a former USB board member who's the chair. That's Leslie Castle, right? Then there's other individuals that are from the community. There's his name is Al. He's a great CPA. He volunteered to serve on the board, so it's non-compensatory. So, that would be established as part of setting the foundation up, is whether you wanted to pay members of the board or not. Typically in education, I would have to look at all the different foundations, but usually it's a volunteer. You volunteer to be on the board, and
right. Even so, let's go back to Mike Kane's example.
Okay.
His board members, they can either volunteer, maybe he gives them some kind of stipend, but
or pays for their travel,
or pays for their travel. Well, you have to, I think, reimburse for that stuff. But who pays for him? Who pays for his salary? Does that come through donations, or does the district pay his salary?
It can
Like,
be,
would we have to pay that person's
we
salary?
would have to decide something like that as part of the establishment of the foundation, is whether you want to fund an executive director out of the proceeds from donations, which would all be established in the bylaws and the, I can't remember the term there. There's the bylaws and the.
So, so Scott, just to interrupt for a second, but when you set up those bylaws, you can, there's not a ton of restriction. You can do it however you want to do it.
Right.
You just have to outline it in your bylaws, right?
Correct.
So you can choose to make an executive director position a volunteer position, or you can choose to have it a paid position. That's just that's up to however you choose to set up, right?
Yeah.
We could even say that the board members on the foundation, you know, two of them need to come from our board, and two of them could be parents from the community, or so you can set up the foundation and have the board members be, whoever we would want them to be. So if we wanted to make sure that there were board members represented on the board of the foundation, we just write it into the bylaws, right?
Right. So my friends came to my rescue. There's two things: articles of incorporation and the bylaws. Right. So without rehashing it, Vice Chair Kelly, I think, answered your question, ma'am. I mean, it's when you go down that road of establishing a foundation by way of the articles of incorporation and or the bylaws, which should mesh, right, should combine, is where these decisions are made. And that would be part of the decision-making process. What I would say would be the board on how you want to see the foundation ran, right? Do you want an executive director? I think that would all go into thing. I've already asked the AAGs, we would really need an impartial attorney to advise the USBE on the establishment of the foundation and keep USBE staff separate from it.
Right.
So that,
that's my concern, is
right.
that when you've got board members on a board, they typically want to have someone they want to assign staff to do something, and that's typically an executive director. So, and if you have a volunteer, would that person have access to resources? Would there be space? I mean, we could, I'm assuming, create space in the building.
Well, they, again, they would just, that would be their decision. How often do they meet? Where do they meet? Could they use your boardroom? Right. Probably, those things.
Do they use our materials for?
So that's another thing, just to
technology,
manage expectation. Yeah, technology and the provision of that. Yes. I mean, we could decide all that and help with all that. I don't see that as really a barrier. It's typically that your staff, like myself or Molly or Superintendent Hart or Deborah, would not be voting members, right? We would just be the advisors and help with it, similar to how the USDB Foundation was set up. But there are issues there. There are issues with that foundation. There's sometimes nobody's fault, just, process-wise. We need to, work on those types of things too. It's not something that you can just flip on or flip off overnight. It would take a, bit of time to set things up correctly, have meetings, identify, again, like Vice Chair Kelly so well stated it. You just have to decide, would it be 2 members from the community, parents, all those types of things would have to be fleshed out to set up a foundation. So then it becomes, well, is the juice worth the squeeze? Because if it's only to do this particular campaign, that's a lot of work and a lot of effort just for a very important campaign, a very substantial, attention.
Scott, what you're saying, Scott, I do, like, it doesn't make sense just to do it for this one campaign, for sure. If we're going to do a foundation, it needs to be a foundation that provides opportunities for, significant donations to help the USBE in multiple ways,
Yeah. For example, we did consider opening a foundation for the Special Needs Opportunity Scholarship, which used to be the Carson Smith, because in the audits, the vendors that were running the vouchers or the scholarships, we had findings for the audits, but our staff didn't have findings per se, because we could have also done a foundation to run the UFA program, the Utah Fits All program. That was like a $100 million whatever, but there was monies there to run to hire executive directors and such. But I think that those were such huge endeavors that then it would make the juice worth the squeeze, because then you'd have these transparent operations that was auditable by our independent audit, the OSA, like whoever wanted to could see all of that. That was determined to go out to vendors, so we didn't continue to consider that. But for massive endeavors like that, those were things where I've heard it tossed around in the past a little bit. Vice Chair Kelly?
Yeah, I think I got to do a better job of raising my hand on this thing, I think. So I interrupted
There are only three
Deputy
of us.
Superintendent Jones, and I apologize for that. My question for Deputy Superintendent Jones is, you said this was back in 2014 before you had even arrived here. I'm thinking about the Alpine Foundation. I know a couple of people that were pretty, Tim Eisenhart was the, executive director there for a while. I could probably reach out to him. But is there somebody that's either currently with the USBE or formerly with the USBE that we can get more clear answers on what exactly happened last time?
No, I'm not aware of anybody that's still around since it. So 2014, early 15 was when the decision was made by the board at the time to do away with the foundation. So Mr. Haber might have experience with the foundation while he was in this position several years ago. So you might want to call on him and see if he has anything to add or his experiences. I don't want to misrepresent anything, but those were my understandings based on the decisions of why it went away, is we weren't raising any money and those types. But the individual was my predecessor, Bruce Williams, that was here, that was the one that, did the process of doing away with the foundation. But you may want to ask Todd for his input because he was here before Bruce. So,
and I can't remember if it was all fleshed out and then decided not to do it in the last minute, or if they actually had started it and then canceled it. It was one of those.
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah. Could you see if Todd's or Mr. Haber's still with us? And
yeah, we'll go to Todd Haber, and then we've got Member Booth has a comment as well. Todd, are you still on?
I am here for the duration.
Do you have any?
During my tenure there at the USBE, the foundation was not active.
Okay.
So it existed, but nobody did anything with it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Chair, so may I?
Yes, I just have a follow-up to Todd Haber. Was it not active because the donations weren't coming in, or because there wasn't an executive director that was out generating the donations, or do you remember what the situation was?
I don't recall. I think I would guess, because I didn't spend a lot of time with it, I would guess that there wasn't funding coming in. So there wasn't a need for a board to be pulled together or for actions to be taken.
Okay, thank you. Member Booth.
So I've had a fair amount of experience over the last 40 years with boards, foundation boards, with fundraising, with it works so well at the local level when people who are excited about their kids and grandkids and businesses that want to be supportive of a community, rally together and support the programs that are right there in their backyard. When you get up to the state level, it feels like the initiatives for which we may be fundraising and trying to get people excited about have less direct, there's less direct interest on the part of people who might want to be involved and contribute to the efforts, because how it's administered and how those funds then actually impact their community or all communities, or which communities would be open to benefiting from those kinds of funds. It's all very difficult to explain and to lay out for the public view, just simply because it's way up in Salt Lake City at USBE rather than in Juab or in San Juan or in wherever it is that the needs that are motivating those people who want to give money to get money at a state level and to keep it coming in. I think you'd have to have an organization that communicated a lot better than we are able to communicate as a USBE, simply because we have so many things to communicate about, so many things that are required by law for us to communicate, so many things we have to do just to keep teachers in the classroom and support systems in place for us to be able to function in our primary duty, which is to oversee and govern an excellent public education system. So I have some concerns that in opening up one more thing at the state level, that dilutes our ability to govern efficiently and wisely and communicate the ways that we need to. I would rather be enthusiastic about supporting local efforts to raise funds at a local level to help support attendance in this district or that district or this school or that school. I just know it takes a lot of time. The board is sometimes unwieldy. Sometimes they don't agree with policy, and then they start digging in their heels and say, well, we don't want to raise money if you're not going to let us use it for this. But the articles of what is it, articles of federation or whatever, and the bylaws are prepared and organized by the governing entity, which would be USBE, and sometimes the people that want to give money and want to use it for certain things are not under the umbrella of USBE, and they resist. I'm just thinking of a board that I'm with right now, and some of the personalities on the board who are wheeler dealers and have a lot of money and want to support good things in the community, but they have strong opinions on how it ought to be done and how it ought to be used.
Thank you. Member Kelly, or Vice Chair Kelly.
I'm wondering, you said something yesterday to me, Chair Davis, that I thought, well, maybe this, and maybe this is a question for both Chair Davis and or Deputy Superintendent Jones. If we were to go, if I don't see any of the attendance team on our call. If you are, interrupt me and let us know that you're there. But I'm wondering if they presented to us a budget, or if they presented to us, hey, this is what we think we need for the campaign. Are there monies that we could recommend to the board that we help them fund this campaign?
That's a great idea. Like discretionary monies. Is that what we talked about yesterday?
Yeah.
Because it seems like that would be much more streamlined than opening a foundation.
Yeah, if we're going to do if we're going to do a foundation, I think it's got to be bigger than just an attendance thing for sure. This wouldn't be just for one campaign, as I think Deputy Superintendent Jones was mentioning.
Mhm.
It would need to be a much broader thing for much bigger donations and projects and opportunities. But for this specific campaign, are there some things that we could do to support them to help them out?
And also, my question still exists. I think that could be considered. All of these things could be considered. A foundation could still be considered. What you just said could be considered with discretionary funds. And also, my question's still out there. Are there members of this task force committee that are members of existing 503c3? 503c3, is that right?
501c3.
A 501c3, that's right. Thank
There
you.
go.
That could the donations, because you hate to give away people who want to contribute to a great cause. You hate to turn them away. So could they contribute? Because the only problem with going to the local entities is you help your folks with attendance, you help your folks with attendance. Those initiatives are important, but what I think that our group is trying to do is a statewide, like, radio campaign or billboards or something. It sounds to me like it'd be something that would inform parents across the whole umbrella of the state.
Get your kids to school. Yeah.
Right. So can we, I saw the beginnings of a PowerPoint come up. Oh, I see Director Menlove.
Oh, she is.
Director Menlove, were you going to show us that PowerPoint, or was someone else going to do that?
I'm not sure. Well, Elise just was like, "Can you jump on this call right now?" So we were listening on YouTube, but not on Zoom. So, but we're here and we're happy to answer your questions. But we're fine. Like, if we don't get the foundation, we were just trying to find a way to allow people that want to give to this awesome cause, a way for them to do that. And this was the only way that we were told that it could possibly happen. But we do have other ways and other resources. We're happy to explore other options. This was just one of the options that we were told we should at least look at. So, but yeah, we are happy to share about the campaign. If you want to know more, we can share a presentation. We haven't solicited donations. We haven't, it's just something that came up when we were reaching out to businesses to partner. We're trying to create as many community partnerships. We've been working with other nonprofits that, like you guys had mentioned, like, could you ask them to do stuff? And we could, but we've kind of tried to keep it really simple when we ask people to partnership with us. It's just become an ambassador, join our ranks of, like, being a champion for attendance in the state. Obviously, our experience with LEAs is a little different. We have invited them to join an attendance challenge, and we have a number of resources that are really awesome that were created specifically for this campaign at a state level that we've never had before. I will give you a little bit of context. We've met with many other states. Obviously, as part of our job, we meet with other attendance teams throughout the country. Most of them have like $1 million budgets when they're trying to launch something like this. So when we were talking about it, and we've met with with member Kelly and with a representative Welton in the summer, and presented them and told them kind of about this campaign. But we also explained we have no money. So that's been one of our hurdles, but we are hurdlers and we will jump and do whatever we can to help the schools. This is something that we obviously feel passionate about. It's our job. That's what we do, is we promote attendance and support our schools and our LEAs. But yeah, the budget part of it has been a little bit of a challenge. We did get a small $1,000 budget because I was trying to get items translated. And turns out USB, we contract with somebody to translate. So we couldn't even get some of our materials translated into Spanish to send out without funding. So we did get $1,000, but we spent about half of that just translating a handful, not even all of our resources. So we are happy with any budget we have. We're happy not having a budget. But when we meet with other states and they tell us all the stuff that they're doing, we're like, how do you do that? And they're like, oh, we have an $11 million budget. Like our board gave us this, or our legislators gave us that. So we're trying to do everything we can with no money, which is what we do. We're teachers, we're educators, right?
Okay. So that's one more thing, Member Kelly, that Megan just mentioned. We could ask for a line item from the legislature as well.
Megan, and I saw that Garrett's on as well now, so welcome, Garrett. Perhaps we can ask you and your team to put together some type of a budget, and maybe like a 2 or 3 tiered budget that says, hey, here's some things we want to look at, and up to billboards, going up and down I-15 type thing, and so maybe there's different levels of what we could look at, and then we could come back and present that to the board and say, look, this is an attendance, because I'm passionate about what you guys are doing. I think what you're doing is great. I want to support the campaign. And financially, I think it'd be great to be able to get the word out. Hey, get your kids to class. So,
yeah, that's our goal.
And in just 1 second, I'll get to you too, Deputy Jones. And when I say there are 3, I mean 3 board members. There are many important voices in this conversation. Director Menlove, I'm still unsure. The reason I ask if I know you've been meeting with a task force or a working group, are any representatives on that group, and you don't have to tell me who, but they're representing already a foundation or a 501c3. The reason I ask is because someone from, I think it was Boulder Way Forward, contacted me and said, we want to work with attendants. And I think I connected them with you or some of your team.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if they're a 501c3, but if they are, or if there are other representatives, could you still, again, I hate to turn away private public partnerships are so great. And I hate to turn away if someone's wanting to participate. Could it go through something like their education arm, and your task force with that liaison still decides how that gets spent, and the donor decides how it gets spent? Is that an option still?
We could definitely look into that option. We have met with Boulder Way Forward and the Promise Partnership. We've met with people since launching the campaign, but we did not have a nonprofit as part of our planning. So our planning committee and our task force, I think was the word you used, but the planning committee for this campaign came through. We were partners with like the court system, JJYS, those type of DCFS, those types of partnerships, as we were saying, do you think this would be a good idea? What would this look like? So we didn't start any of those other partnerships until the campaign was launched, if that answers your question. So, but we're happy to work with those people to say, would this be an option? Can we, utilize your 501c3, like your, foundation type thing? I don't know how they would feel about that, but we're happy to look into that option.
Explore.
We have not had that conversation. Exactly. We're happy to explore any and all options.
It would be a way to preserve the private funds.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to ask for less discretionary funds from the board or a line item from the legislature. Deputy Jones, and then Director Russell. I'm saying director for everyone because I'm not sure what everybody's title is.
Let's do specialist.
Yeah, specialist, but I feel really honored. Thank you.
Yes, I know. I don't want to correct you, but yes, we're just specialists. But we're happy with whatever you call us.
Okay, all right, specialist. Thank you. Let's go to Deputy Jones, and then we'll go to Specialist Russell.
Yes. Well, just to be clear too, I talked to some of my colleagues in other states, and Megan's absolutely right. They are really pushing this, but their money really did come more from the legislature and or their respective boards than it did donations, is my understanding. So, Megan, is there any indication about how much we'd estimate we'd get in donations? I mean, there's been this narrative that, hey, there's community organizations that want to donate, but has there ever been any, amount? See, this is another thing that's concerning, right? To go to set up a foundation and then only to receive a couple of thousands of dollars of donations, or, would be, to me, that's another juice isn't worth the squeeze. The board has an opportunity today during, I think it's agenda item 16, that if you want to, make a motion to direct staff to, prepare a business case, or I'm sorry, a request for funding, that would actually, for how much you think you need to do this. So,
legislative, like
yeah,
it would be like $1 million line item or something like that.
Yeah, like that. I think you might get it, especially where we're in that space of one-time money, right? That would be my recommendation. Instead of going the foundation route, first and foremost, try to see if you can, try to see if we can get some one-time money to help us.
And does the legislature already have a foundation set up?
No. It wouldn't be a foundation, it'd be a line item.
I know, but do they have a foundation?
No, I don't
Someone
think
could donate to them for this?
No.
Okay, just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
So before I go to Specialist Russell, Member Kelly, it sounds like if you have time to have a conversation with Specialist Menlove offline and do some thinking about what that might entail, you could make that motion when we come to the legislative request, because the legislature often tells us to make requests for one-time funds rather than ongoing funds. And this is something, as Deputy Jones said, would fit into that bucket, so to speak. Specialist Russell.
Yeah, I just first wanted to say thank you. It's awesome that you guys are bringing these things up and giving us an opportunity to share about the campaign. When we started this, we were excited to get it launched, but we do see the long-term impacts of this being really positive. And so if there is a chance to have that one-time funding request or whatever that does look like from the board, that would be immense, just to be able to continue to move this forward. We didn't launch this with like the vision of it being a 1-year goal of trying to promote attendance. We've seen the trends increasing, and fortunately last year our chronic absenteeism rate did drop, which is positive. I know it's like the inverse, but continuing to get that momentum to continue on that downward trajectory. So our kids are coming and finding more partners, more funding. A lot of the resources that we've created, we send out to LEAs, but then again, it's up to them to print or to produce. Where if we could give every school a packet of here's your resources, here's your posters already made, then they wouldn't also have that burden of having to print it and tapping into those resources, or just saying, yeah, we're good not doing this, that kind of thing. So continuing to move this forward would be fantastic. And we just appreciate you guys talking about this with us. It's awesome.
Thank you. How long is the slide deck that I saw someone put up initially? Who put that slide deck up initially?
We put that in back up as additional information. It should be there. I'm looking to see how many pages.
I think it's like 28 slides.
Okay. Okay, we can, I will more thoroughly explore that offline, and anybody can, it's in the public view as well, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so if you were going to highlight 3 things about what the attendance group has done, could you highlight those 3 things before we either take an action or take no action and think about all the things we've talked about today, or see what our members want to do? But could you highlight just kind of 3 key things that you are doing for us within the next 5 minutes?
Is that to me? I'm guessing you're talking to me.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you or
yes, if you wanted to scroll
Garrett, either
down,
one.
Elise, if you can scroll to slide 4, I think that might be the most encompassing right here. So this kind of encompasses the campaign, but also about what we're doing as an attendance team. Member Davis, I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of tell you a little bit. The campaign includes a challenge where schools and districts, and we already have over 30 schools or LEAs who have joined this challenge. There's more information about what the challenge all entails, but that's one thing. The attendance ambassadors we've talked about, which includes a support network where we send them resources as soon as they sign up to be an ambassador for attendance. We also send out a lot of monthly messaging. We have social media posts that are pre-made that go with the campaign that are resourced. There's also a monthly nudge that you can just copy and paste. One of the big things that we heard from all of our LEAs that we met with as we planned this campaign over the last year was that they don't have time. They don't have time to create attendance information. They don't have time to come up with social media posts or things to send out to their parents. So we've created all those things for them and said, here you go. Also, it includes other resources. There's a really awesome parent handout that talks about the myths and the facts about why you should or shouldn't be at school. That's one I've seen a lot of our people attaching to and asking for more information about. And then we also just launched in May an attendance toolkit that kind of takes schools and LEAs through a system of building their attendance. So not just it's not all about messaging. It also includes, creating an attendance team. How do you set that up? How do you get people engaged? What do you do with parent engagement? How do you get students? How do you involve all stakeholders? Looking at community resources. We've developed a lot of really awesome community resources. Also with this, we have a community partner flyer that is included in this campaign that you could give to the community members in your own community. It's very general. How can you as a community member help attendance at school? And then we also have a lot of ongoing webinars and professional learning opportunities for people that whether they engage in our campaign or not. We started those in January and they've been super successful. We've got a lot of great feedback. And then we are doing daily almost technical assistance to LEAs and schools across the state who are asking, this is a problem for us, please help us, give us ideas. We've collected a lot of best practices that we share out. We also have just about 30 LEAs and schools that are involved in a cohort that we do. This is our fourth year, Garrett. I'm new. I've only been here for 1 year, but the cohort's been going and we meet with those cohorts specifically and we help them build their attendance system, including their messaging, their teaming, their community engagement, all of that. So there's a lot of awesome things that we're doing. There's only 1.5. I'm a half-time attendance specialist and Garrett's the full-time. So there's 1.5 of us that are doing all of these things. And we also obviously also participate in our own learning with meeting with other states. We just recently met with Colorado. We meet with Rhode Island, South Carolina. We're meeting with people as often as we can in opportunities to learn from them, to know how else we can help here in the state of Utah with attendance and with chronic absenteeism. And we have goals. Part of this campaign has the goals of reducing chronic absenteeism, increasing daily attendance, and then the third one is a big one, is just raising awareness. And that's part of the campaign, is to raise awareness.
That's really big right now. Thank you. Garrett, do you have something to add? I didn't realize that you were working full-time in this space and that Megan, you were half-time, and apologize for not knowing everybody's.
No,
you don't need
you're
to know.
you're totally
I'm just
fine. I
explaining
mean,
kind of our team.
both of us are
there's just
equally
1.5
capable.
of us.
Megan's
Yeah.
fantastic. So yeah, I mean, she covered it. A lot of it is like that technical assistance side. Our year-long cohort, like she said, is in our 3rd year. Every single year it's doubled with participation. One of the hard parts for us on that cohort is that there's no mandate that LEAs engage with us. So we identify them based on their chronic absenteeism rate for the previous year. We reach out, tell them the services that we offer, but also they can just say no. It's kind of the coalition of the willing at some time, which is great. It's people that want to do the work. So that's really helpful for us to move that forward. Our webinars are continuing to grow. We partner with like Attendance Works. We were doing some work with the SEAC. There's some changes because of Department of Ed changes right now, but just getting our own continuing education, sharing best practices, and then creating communities that we can involve others in, which has been fantastic. And this campaign's really helped us branch out to community partners and just seeing what else that can look like. The number one thing around the nation that everybody sees with attendance is that community partnership, and bridging those gaps, identifying those barriers. What can we do to create trust back in our schools? What can we do to create awareness, draw attention to what's going on, and then highlight the positive things that are happening in school, versus the negative aspects of missing? Like, that's also very important. But what do you miss from not being there for the school day? How does that impact teachers? How does that impact your whole classroom? Are you missing valuable time that you could be connecting with peers and working on some of those interpersonal relationships as well as learning and staying on track for graduation? So a lot of this, Megan captured all the stuff that we're doing. She's fantastic. Hopefully we get to keep her on. Her contract is expiring at some point. So we're trying to keep that. We'll be down to one attendance specialist here. Hopefully not soon.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, we appreciate all that both of you and the whole team is doing. I think Benji's on a team too, helping.
Benji's our supervisor. Yeah.
Okay. I need to get all the org charts figured out in my brain.
There's too many. If you memorized all of them, that would be impressive. So you're doing great.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And we probably need to wrap this issue up and then move on to agenda 2.8. So Member Kelly.
Yeah, I'll just want one more thing, and then let's move on. But I wanted to get it on public record. I'll talk with Garrett and Megan and Benji and Jennifer offline. But I think one thing as I'm brainstorming this, as we're having this discussion, we've been working a little bit with Representative Welton, and perhaps what we do is encourage Representative Wilson to roll into his attendance bill, some funding for a campaign, So,
Yeah, it sounds like most of the states that are finding success in this area are doing it with some legislative support.
Yeah, I know South Dakota did. We did a family trip this summer, and it was wild driving across I-80 there and seeing billboards for attendance. I was like, well, how did they do that? This is amazing.
That's awesome.
So I reached out to them, and it was legislatively done.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, all of you. I think we're learning a lot, and I heard another, I won't say his name because I don't know if he wants to be quoted, but I heard a representative say the other day, if you're going to choose to go to a brick and mortar school, whether it's a district or a charter, you're choosing to attend. That is your choice. So get there and get the learning. And then if you don't want to attend, there are other options. But if you're gonna, that's your choice, then you got to get there.
If it's a seat time class, it needs to be a seat time class. If it's an online class, then that's different, right? Yeah.
Totally. It was an interesting conversation. Yeah, specific to the brick and mortar choice. Thank you all. And let's move on to number 2.8.
Thank you guys for your time.
Paula Plant, thank you. Do we have Director Plant with us?
I believe.
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
It's like we have a quarterly report.
Okay, thank you, Chair Davis. So I thought I might, Cami, I think is going to help me with my slides. Will you again, Cami? Thank you. So I think it's important, maybe starting out for you to understand why we do these quarterly reports. I think it's important to remember that as the largest beneficiary of a trust that retains 3 million acres of land and almost $4 billion in a fund, it's important for you to have a quick update periodically to understand what's happening with the trust. If you'll go to the next slide, Cami, This is just a summary of what happened last year in FY25. This is the revenue that was generated from the trust. That's not a final number because they haven't closed their books yet. At least when I put the slide together, they hadn't. It was kind of a record year, maybe one of the top 4 since they've been created. And this particular year, more revenue was generated from development, that meaning surface and like commercial and real estate kind of development, than in minerals. Usually minerals is the big ticket number. And then of course they deposit their money into the permanent fund. The permanent fund, I got new numbers yesterday indicating that that number for public schools is actually there's actually $37 million to add to that number. And as a combined fund, so all of the trusts, so that would include the trust for the schools for the deaf and the trust for the schools for the blind and other trusts, they've actually surpassed this year $4 billion. I have to indicate a correction on the pink piece because our distribution year is a year behind the distribution year as they generate the money. And this is actually the FY26 distribution number that went out to schools with an average of $166 per student. And then if you'll go to the next slide, please. This is to give you an update on the actual distribution to schools. These numbers, of course, have changed a little bit. We actually are in a place now where the 10 new schools have until November the 1st to submit their plans. Other than that, we are just 2 schools that will not have received funding with the September distribution. So we're feeling like we're in a good shape for the money to be in the hands of schools so that they can implement their plans. And then the next slide is just to let you know, you've been talking about a public education campaign. We partnered with the Advocacy Office and the Treasurer's Office. Of course, you know the Treasurer is the chair of the Fund Office board. And this event actually happened on Monday, and you may have seen something in the press or actually in the newsletter that went out a couple of days ago. The purpose of the press event is to encourage participation on school councils. So a parent seeing it might become aware that there's a council that they could actually participate on, and then to raise public awareness of the trust and the funds going to schools, and then to highlight what school community councils are doing. So it was the highlight people, of course, were Dr. Hart and Treasurer Oakes. It was well attended, and we had coverage from several media outlets. So the next slide, what we did was tried to identify not just a school here on the Wasatch Front where, the television news channels would come, but we wanted to highlight schools in other parts of the state where local newspapers still are an important way where people receive their information. And so we highlighted these so that the word would get out across the state and not just here on the Wasatch Front. So for instance, I'm going to tell you an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. Desert Hills Elementary in Washington School District focuses on reading and math, and they have used their funding primarily for paraprofessionals to reduce the student-teacher ratio. That's primarily their goal. And then in a middle school, Canyon View Middle School and Emory School District, instead of focusing on additional people, they're putting their energy towards professional development to strengthen teaching and to purchase some technology to support them in trying to improve reading scores. And they've had positive results from that with some students who were reading at a 5th grade level. At the end of 3 years, they were reading at a 9th grade level. So they're feeling like that is meeting their needs and their goals. In Skyview High School in Cache, the focus really is on increasing graduation rates and boosting college and career readiness. And so they try to expand access to concurrent enrollment, AP classes, and ACT preparation to help their students get where they need to be. So we'll be waiting to see if there is some news coverage coming from local newspapers to help us. And then the next slide, Cami, is just to let you know, it's to follow up. I know that I have let you know, but with everything going on in your lives, you probably don't remember. But there was a legislative audit that was released just a year ago, specifically about entities in the trust system. And a working group was assembled with Senator Owens, and Representative Burton served as chair. And that group has been meeting over the past year to try and address the recommendations coming out of the audit. In their last meeting, the working group, when they met in August, they had a unanimous support of a draft bill that Senator Owens then opened a bill file, and those two legislators will be the sponsors. The next step in this process is to report to an October interim committee, and they're working through what committee that should be. We would like to provide an update to the board on that after it has actually been an interim committee meeting. It obviously wouldn't be a final draft, but it makes several changes that we feel it's important for you to be aware of. And then the last slide is just to make you aware of both the fund board and the land board, of course, have a board of trustees. And every year, one of those people comes off the board and a new person is nominated. I couldn't find a picture of Rocky Patel. She is the new appointment to the fund board. And we're really pleased about that appointment. And then, of course, some of you will be aware of Brian Tarbett because he has been in the AG's office for many years and just retired last spring. He is the new appointment to the land board. And again, we're really pleased about that appointment. Just for your information, I actually sit on the nominating committee that nominates the land board members. And we try to make people aware when the nominating committee is meeting and what kind of expertise we're looking for. And of course, any recommendations coming from you at any point in time would be more than welcome. And then that's really all I have today. I did want to let you know, because I know that you have requested a cost benefit analysis of the website, and I am preparing that, and we will have that for you at the October meeting. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, that's my report.
Thank you so much, Director Plant. I'm not seeing any hands, so we sure appreciate all you are doing to protect and help and serve the children of Utah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deputy Jones, recognition of progress, achievements, and improvements.
Yes, so I am honored to be able to recognize our phenomenal financial staff for yet another year of successful year-end close. I mean, I know we still need state finance to validate the closing package, you know, balances. There might be some slight adjustments that need to be made or what have you, but I would just like to publicly recognize Deborah for her leadership throughout such a time intensive and technical process that, because if you don't end the year right, there's no way you're going to start the next year right. And she's been leading that group of phenomenal individuals for 10 years now, 11 years, going on 11 years now. So, but then each particular staff member within our financial operations staff is just phenomenal year in and year out. We continue to get recognized as being, ahead of most agencies, if not all, in our efforts to ensure that we have full transparency and management and control of public education funds, which are taxpayer funds. You see the great effort that Paula and her team are making, and certainly School Land Trust funds are also part of the year-end close activities. And so just kudos to them. I mean, it's too many of them to name, but I would be remiss if we didn't recognize yet again all of their phenomenal efforts, and how proud I am of them for what it's worth. And look forward to seeing them around campus, and hope that they'll stay with us long after I'm gone, and keep doing all these great things they do. So I just wanted to do that as part of the recognition of achievements. And so then, ma'am, at your direction, we can move into the presentation pieces of this. So thank you.
Yes, we have had heavy lifts
Yes.
this year. I mean, looking over USDB and UFA, and just so many things going on, so many heavy lifts this year, and your team, both the financial arms and the data arms, and just so much work. I mean, I know because I'm seeing the work happening around the clock, and sometimes I'm thinking, go home, go to bed. But appreciate all of you do. Okay, let's go into the presentations that you mentioned.
I think your direction, ma'am. The first one is USIMS.
Director Felt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Jared, provide the summary. Yeah, go ahead, Jared. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair Davis. So last month, Katrina Brinkley, the program manager over USIMS, Jared Felt, USBE IT director, did a deep dive into the PMR for USIMS. She's off today, so this month we're not going into a deep dive, so I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. I will point out that the USIMS Educator team is working on a big lift for the October 14th deadline, where LEAs will start using the USIMS interface to manage all of the educator employment information. So they are working towards that. As far as budget goes, we are on track and have plenty of money to complete this project. So without any further questions, that's all I've got.
I have a question. I thought that November was the deadline for educators to move their or to create their accounts in USIMS, to move from Cactus to USIMS. Is it actually October 14th?
It is, yeah, and this is because the way that the LEAs connect to Cactus right now, that functionality is going away because of a Microsoft requirement, and so they won't have access to access Cactus after that point.
After October 14th.
Yeah.
I think I did say that date because but I was with a group of board members yesterday morning at 7 a.m. and I think I said November. I'm gonna have to go back and clarify to all those members. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I will point out that the licensing section is working with the LEAs as well as the USIMS team to make sure that they're trained and can get access and have everything they need.
The individual teachers, or with
Well,
LEAs?
this would be like HR personnel at the LEAs, those that manage the educator.
Okay. Because the individual teachers have to go in and do the work, right?
Correct. And they can already get in to do like renew their licenses and do their background checks right now.
Yeah. But if they haven't had to relicense yet, they have to go in and create an account, correct?
Correct. Yes.
How long on average would you say that takes a teacher to do?
I don't have specific, I've heard it's a very seamless process. I know that we do. So prior to USIMS, the background check portion of renewing a license took a long time because it wasn't automated. The BCI didn't. We didn't have an automated connection with BCI to do that. That has streamlined quite a bit. There are some bugs that they're working out with that functionality, but I think overall we've got positive feedback. But I couldn't give you like a specific, how long it takes without talking to Katrina a little more.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. I don't see any other hands, so thank you for that report. And we will move on to 2.9 monthly report on Utah grants. I think this is another very streamlined because we did that last time, right? So we're just here for questions.
Just the summary. Yeah, go ahead.
A quick summary. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. I am Rebecca Nielsen, Grants Director of Grants Administration, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. As we did go into the deep dive last month, we just provided a summary of activities that have taken place since our last presentation, and then upcoming activities that we're currently working on. I will note that we have 2 upcoming site visits. I will be going back to meet with our vendor actually next week is our first site visit, working with the developers for some intense hands-on week-long sessions of development and refinement. So I'm expecting to get a lot done in those 2 one-week sessions. So that's actually a really great opportunity for us to move the project forward, but we're making great progress otherwise.
That's wonderful. Where is that?
Sterling, Virginia, so right outside of Washington, D.C.
Nice. Well, I hope you can take some time in the evenings to to not think about work and do a little just be in another place and enjoy all that has to offer.
Well, thank you.
I just wanted to mention I work with the Reports and Requirements Task Force, soon to be called the Administration and Transparency Task Force, but or at least that's what we're calling it informally. I think it's still in code and rule as that. But in our last meeting, multiple people were really complimentary of the changes that we've made so far in Utah grants and how that has helped to streamline and preserve some time. They're always looking for more instructional time and less management time. So thank you for the great work that you've been doing over the last few years on that. We appreciate you.
I appreciate the positive feedback. Thank you.
And seeing no other hands, Deputy Jones, do you have any last minute thought for us before we adjourn?
Just to check in with Cammie, make sure she's got everything, all the motions or any questions from Cammie through you, ma'am.
I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Okay. That's all then, ma'am. Subject to
Okay.
your direction.
Members, Member Booth, and Vice Chair Kelly, and any last word before we adjourn?
I'm amazed at the complexity of the finance operations across USBE and all of the affiliated organizations and initiatives that have to be handled in light of newspaper articles that come out, as we saw this morning. It is very reassuring and a very positive feeling inside to know that we are relying on such careful and meticulous finance gurus who really are keeping on top of the game when it could be really, really difficult given what we have to manage and the many unexpected twists and turns that come to us as we're working with a large organization and a lot of resources that need to be protected for students. So I just express appreciation as a board member, as a grandfather, for all of your efforts to make what we're doing in the greater USBE mission possible, because none of it's really going to happen without these resources that you're managing so well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Booth. Vice Chair Kelly?
Yeah,
Anything more?
you know, when Member Booth's, when he mentions that word grandfather, it puts a really big smile on my face now. But he and I have been sharing, you know, just fun successes with the grandkids, and it's sure fun. But that's ultimately who we're working for and who we are trying to serve. And I'll concur. Chair Davis mentioned the heavy lifts this year, and she mentioned UFA and USDB, but I'll also mention a lot of legislation that's come down. The school fees thing that we worked on today is, I think, been a heavy lift, and making sure that we're helping schools, you know, align that and make sure that that they're in line with code and with legislation that's coming down. So tremendous. Our staff does a tremendous job. I've been very impressed. So thank you to Deputy Superintendent Jones and his team.
Thank you. And I will let my comments rest on the backs of my esteemed board member colleagues. And with that, because I agree with everything both of you just said, and with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. We'll see you at 1 o'clock. Thanks, everybody.